Hi, I'm Claire.
Christy.
And Janine. We're three marketers that have spent decades in talent tech and recruitment, facing the same challenges and watching the same mistakes play out over and over again.
We started What's the Point because we're tired of the fluff, vanity marketing, and wasted budgets that never drive real growth.
This podcast is straight talk for marketers and leaders who want marketing that actually works. No jargon, no egos, just hard-won lessons and practical advice that will help you scale your business.
We believe one of the challenges that marketers face today is building a business case for marketing spend. So as we speak today, it's Q4, and we thought it would be useful to dig into how you can turn marketing into commercial reasoning. Because we believe that marketers who get things done aren't just creative, but they're commercially fluent. So let's dig in. Christy, what is and isn't a business case? Let's start there.
Let's start with what it isn't. A business case isn't, oh, I saw this cool thing, let's do it. A business case isn't, oh, well, Simon over on our blah, blah, blah team came over and he really wants to do this. A business case isn't, oh, well, our competitor's doing it. It isn't, oh, well, we did this last year and it was really great, so we want to do it again. So I think that the common thread in all of those is it's not positioned in, one, it's certainly not positioned in leadership speak, in business speak, in what's why, what's the potential outcome, why do this versus, what's the opportunity cost of doing this versus something else? How does it align with the business plan, strategy, focus areas? And I think that the common thread further on all of that is not having a plan. It's not having a plan to know what you actually want to achieve. How are you going to achieve it? And what does good look like at the end of it?
And I think we're probably all in the same position that most of the businesses we're talking to at the moment are making plans, right? 2026.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing it shouldn't be is a one-off, a one-off conversation.
No, and I think for me, in terms of what it is very much, it's not about even your annual marketing strategy review. It's actually, you could tie it to that completely. You could say, well, actually, in terms of where we've been and what we've done and what we've achieved, let's look to the future and figure out how we can build a marketing strategy based on these different kind of levers, or we want to achieve this type of outcome. That's a business case for your overarching business marketing strategy. But that also then becomes a business case for budget based on activity. So you're tying it to, what have you done? What have you achieved? What do you want to go back and do better? Increase, be more kind of relevant, present, have more reach, have more depth, versus, oh yeah, I think we should just do that, right? But how many times do we get that opportunity to really plan and think?
Well, can I actually just go down one other little path to that? I think there's also this old adage of what does good look like? And I hear it so much. It's like, oh, well, it only cost, £3,000. That's less than one placement.
Oh, yeah. That argument of even things like events, and I've heard it recently as well. We only need to get one deal over the line.
Cover our costs.
To
we shouldn't be covering your costs. No.
How minute is that outlook? It kind of almost, it's that stop, start, knee jerk reaction kind of piece. And I think if we always want to come at the point where marketing is a strategy, marketing is a strategic play in any business and should be considered in that long and short term kind of growth opportunities.
So how much, let's try and give some actual guidance here. How much would you say in a business case should you be looking backwards? And how much should you be looking forwards?
I think it depends on what type of business case. Because again, I think there's a whole sort of raft of, let's just pull that apart. Okay, so if we're coming to create a business case because you want more budget,
Or you want a budget?
or you want a budget, yeah, for a specific action,
Right.
then I think what you need to do is you need to really know what's the why. To your point, Christy, like, what's the why? What will it get us? Why do we need that level of investment and or activity to get to that end point and that goal? And what do we need to base our decision making on or build that activity out based on? So have we done something similar before? Or do we not do we know how to do it? Like, do we
Yeah.
have the expertise in house to be able to deliver that level of activity? Things like, we want to run an awards event. Okay, but why? We're a recruitment agency and we are a really niche specialist, and we've literally been in, I don't know, 20 organizations this year, but in our niche sector of that corner of the world, we place that C-suite in. Okay, so what you're saying is you want to basically celebrate those 20 leaders or so that you placed this last 12 months. But an award ceremony is not the right thing to do that by, right?
Yeah.
But the budget might need
Yeah.
could be very similar as well.
I think there's also two kind of buckets we have to maybe almost decipher between the two. There's the asking for a marketing budget full stop. So that's like
Yeah.
your 12-month, 2026,
Yeah.
next year's marketing budget. And then there's the ad hoc stuff because you know what? There's a great opportunity that
There's a
presents
shift.
itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It presents itself in September. You didn't foresee it, the
Yeah.
November before. So there's two different cases. If we can for a moment just talk about the planning ahead, the
A budget
12-month
process.
budget.
Let's
Yeah.
do the budget process. Yeah.
Budget process. I think to answer your question, how much is backward looking, how much is forward
Yeah.
looking? So what I do with my clients, and right now is why we're
Yeah.
doing it right now, or this is the timing. It's meeting with those business leaders, whether it's the CEO or the managing director, and or people with a like maybe the vertical lead.
Mm.
What are your business goals? Where's growth coming from? What if they have it, what's your percentage plan for an uplift next
Yeah.
year? So are you planning to grow? This division might be growing 20%. This division we have great aspirations for, they're going to grow 200%. It's giving that marketer, and I know we've talked about before, yeah, maybe the marketer should also be setting the goals. I get it, but let's just say for a moment that they're not, because they're still asking for a budget. So understanding by vertical or by business unit, what's the growth
Yeah.
goal for the year ahead? It's also understanding how much do they contribute to the existing revenue mix. And I
Mhm.
think the mistake that a lot of businesses go down, and I understand why, but they go to treat every line of business equally and not recognizing they aren't equal at the end of the day. And there might be reasons, oh, I don't want somebody to be upset, and I don't want that's not fair if they get more and they don't. But if you really are a business leader and you're really wanting to think strategically, and actually, let me go back to a past corporate life of mine. Our finance and accounting business was delivering 40% of the revenue.
Yeah.
So it was always, they get 40%. Our technology business at the time, and I'm going to make this up right now, but let's say it was 15% of the revenue. But they
Yeah.
said, but the opportunity in technology
there.
is massive.
Yeah.
So they also get 40%.
Okay.
That means everybody else who aren't in our core verticals are going to
Share the
share the
rest.
last 20%.
Mm.
Yes, you might piss a few people off, and you have to find ways around that. And you get
But it's the
toolkits and you get stuff
prioritization.
that they feel
Yeah.
That's the
supported.
strategy.
And what can we do that supports all lines of business? They're not going to be left out in the cold, but it's knowing where's our bread and butter, where's going
Yeah.
to be our engine,
Yeah.
and then where's going to be where's the growth
What's the
levers,
growth?
and how do we invest in that?
And I think to that essentially is you can't look forward without having that
Mhm.
data.
Yeah.
You can't start to really earmark, okay, so what does 40% activity look like here for your IT team or your tech team versus 40% for your
Yeah.
F and
Oh, that was 40% of budget as
Yeah.
a split
Budget.
of the budget
But in
Right.
terms of the split of the budget,
versus the uplift they want.
but it might be a total mix, totally different mix of activity with
100%.
different
gosh,
timelines
absolutely.
to learn and all of that. So you need to know not just what where the business levers are and what the profits are, but also the time to land and also the energy, effort, expertise that you might need as well. So again, thinking about what did we do? How did that work? What were the results? Can we leverage any of that to move forward with? What did it cost us? And then you start getting into the realms of, okay, so what did it cost? I think that is a massive conversation. So you've got people in your business like your CFO,
Yeah.
you've got your CEO, you've got other business leaders who will have a view of the numbers. And if you're really lucky, you'll be in that circle of knowing and understanding where the different elements of cost are. Things are fixed costs, things are kind of material budget. They will
Yeah.
fluctuate, they will come up and down. But what you need as a marketeer is you need that consistency to be able to go, okay, so that was how my budget was structured last year. This is how it's going to be structured this year. These are the elements within it that I need to make certain that I know how, why, and when is that going to hit.
It's also about, isn't it, what?
Yeah.
What's in there? Because often a marketing budget,
Oh, it could
when
be.
created without the marketer in the room usually, it
Be
can have all
anything.
sorts in it. You know, I have
CEO
definitely been
entertainment.
I have definitely been in a
Dinners.
position where client entertainment has been in there, where LinkedIn recruiter licenses were in there,
Mhm.
I've had all
where
my
job
job
board
board
costs,
spends.
Incentive
Yeah.
trips.
incentive trips,
Incentive
yeah.
trips.
Yeah.
So it's what do I control and what do I not control?
I've had travel and accommodation.
Have you? I don't
Yeah,
think I
I've
don't
had
think
that
I've
as
ever
well.
had that, but I have had a wealth and client entertainment is a great example. I was in a situation where somebody would buy a season ticket to the rugby in Scotland to entertain their clients, and that was on my budget. No control, it was already purchased.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like what am I doing with
Well,
that?
it's
So
like
then,
the football season tickets.
yeah,
And
the
that,
box.
you'd have the box and all of that. I've had like over the top from head office, a demand for millions. Like when I'm like, my budget's only 100,000. Seriously,
Yeah, but the box budget's
but,
different.
and this is contribution to, and it's come to me, but it's contribution from our side of the business
Yeah.
that needs to go into the mothership.
And that's
So,
my point as a tip is understand what's in the marketing budget and what your controllables are and have that conversation. I know that we will have talked about this before and it'll be no news to anyone, but make friends with with your FD, with your
absolutely.
CFO, so that they understand what your controllables are and what they aren't, but also then start to look at what do your sales team see? The people that own the P&Ls, the sales directors, the managers in some cases, there might be a regional manager who owns a P&L. What do they see in
Mhm.
marketing and in what lines? So, is there a line for advertising? Is there a line for client entertainment? Is there a line for promotional? Is it separate for LinkedIn? Because if you don't understand that and don't know where you're allocating your numbers and your budget, then you're in danger of them feeling like that's their marketing budget,
Yeah.
not yours.
And that's a real classic kind of pitfall to fall into. I've had. And it's where I kind of laughed at the time, but I think I've internally, marketing fairies died.
Cried.
Yeah. Where basically I've had consultants coming to me and saying, "Oh yeah, we know that we get X amount of marketing budget, so I want to spend it on this event." And I'm like, no, no, that's not how it works.
Mm.
But because again, someone's
It's
seen
on a line, isn't it? I don't want those
yeah,
licenses anymore, actually. We're not using them. Well, they were purchased and they're here for the year. There's not, well, can't you move them? Give them to
yeah,
someone else. That's not how it
no,
works.
I remember an example of there was a directive from above that job boards were going to be cut by X percentage, and
Yeah.
it just what it was. So it meant that um, there was a feeling they didn't have enough job board credits. And it was blamed on marketing. It was like, oh well, go talk because I think at the time it's quite a bit old school, but it was when we were still like allocating out and
Yeah.
stuff manually. And it was like, oh, go talk to marketing. And then the narrative became, oh, well, marketing won't give me any more credits. And then they go into their their reviews being like, why didn't you
Oh,
fill that job order? Well, because
I
marketing
didn't have
didn't give
enough
me the
credits.
credits.
Yeah.
yeah.
And suddenly marketing's the bad guy when guess what? That directive never came from marketing. That
No.
directive was a top-down
Top-down.
directive.
So I think that kind of that senior leadership collaboration, understanding also as well, if you're in a more junior marketing management role and you're not yet
Yep.
director or hitting up, and having that control, but you should be able to have a voice. But
Yeah.
you still need to be able to kind of go, right, okay. So if my CEO or if my MD comes to me and says, you have you got any idea of how much you're going to need next year for your marketing budget? Which invariably they do. And it's that loose, open ended question. And you probably get asked 2 days before they're actually submitting the budget. So you probably had no time to prepare,
No.
no time to look at it. How do you then create something that gives you a platform to own, manage, control, and be in charge of your destiny? Because again,
Yeah.
we're left to the sort of whims otherwise.
I think there's understanding what was in before, because often when that question comes, they've already put in the same number as before.
And
Or,
put 20% up on.
probably not.
Or
All the
20%
sales
off.
targets have gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, the sales budgets will be 20% up. We want you to achieve 20% more.
Oh,
The
okay.
marketing one was usually
You know what?
flat
We're
at
not
best.
alone, actually, in defense of industries worldwide.
Oh, no. We're absolutely
I
not.
have conversations with people not in marketing who it is exactly that. That
Yeah.
it is like our budgets have been cut by 20%. Our actual contracts that the finance team signed are more than that 20% budget. So
Yeah.
it's not, it's not my fault.
Yeah.
It's always
That's-
the
It's
do more with
happening
less.
everywhere.
Do
It
more
happens
with
everywhere.
less, and we're in that economic situation as well.
Oh,
So
we are.
there's
But to your point about what do you then do if you get that question, you need to find out those basics, don't you? Because okay, what are you working to? Because you could sit there and go, well, if you've never been in a budget process before, how do you know where to start, right? So you need to understand what was it, how was it segmented, etc. And then need to use the data that is at your fingertips in marketing at whatever level. What have you got hold of that you can use? Because that's the conversations that I think are then appreciated. It's not stick your finger in the air and see which way the wind's blowing.
Mm.
It's what do you want to achieve? Absolutely. And have those conversations with 48 hours to spare. But it's
sleepless nights.
also, it is also what data have I got what do I know is, I'm going to say moving the needle. And I really hate that phrase, but what is working
Yeah.
right now? And even if I just maintain those things, what does that look like?
I tend to kind of look at marketing budget in sort of 3 buckets, really. I look at it from a people resourcing
Yeah.
perspective. And within that, I'd obviously put my own salary in there or,
Yep.
the kind of fees that I've got going on as a freelancer or fractional. But then I'd also look at what other additional resources do I need to achieve? And again, if
Yeah.
you're
People-
thinking ahead and looking ahead and you're tied to the business, which is what we kind of are on all the time, is know where the business is going, and then you can support that and or get out in front and bring it to that point in time. But you're looking at type of expertise do I need in the business in order to achieve that? Do I need digital marketing experience? Do I need paid search? Do I need agency? Do I need additional strategic
Yeah.
kind of help there? As a marketing manager, I'd want to be able to kind of you in for a day, and I'd maybe want to make sure that I've got agency support because I
It's for
can't.
different purposes as
Yeah.
well. Maybe you only need it as maybe you only need somebody for a bit of direction at a very, very senior level to sort out the
Yeah.
strategy and then it could be executed.
Yeah.
Or maybe you need the agency support because it's a skill set that doesn't exist in
You're never
house.
going to do it all
And you
yourself.
only need it for a finite period and then it's set up
3,
and off
6,
it goes.
9 months, etc.
Yeah, there's a whole
So
there's-
looking at the
So that's one.
resources, the second part is always the kind of plan the year in advance.
Okay.
So I would always look at the key events internally and externally going on in the market. How and where would we normally show up? So things like key events that would be trade shows or key events that would be client events and or partners as well. So again, I'm operating sort of that bigger turn up to other people's events, own our own events, and also be thinking about, okay, what other type of events will give us that level of
And in there, do you include then the stand cost or
Exactly
the
that.
promo that you're going to take with you and the
I think it's a
Do you
campaign.
include all of those things?
Yeah. So again, you can have multiple lines within that, but it kind of bubbles up to events cost. So yeah, you've got your operations, you've got your buy-in costs, you've got your potential costs for I don't know, drink, food, etc., entertainment.
And it doesn't have to be down to the last
No.
pound and
No, no,
pence.
of
You
course
know,
not.
it's
Nobody's expecting that.
Yeah.
It's
There's-
kind
you
of
could
that's the
work
part.
within. You could work.
So what are we
within
going to do,
boundaries.
pot,
Yeah.
almost?
Yeah, and it's also ensuring that actually, even though you've not yet set your plan in motion, you've got budget to do that.
Yeah.
But also as well, be mindful that there's going to be always, and I have this rule of thumb, there's always going to be 20% immediately cut off your budget, like
Correct.
immediately.
Absolutely. Yeah. Go
The
for more.
third, let me come back to that bit because
Yeah.
that's the kind of marketing accounting that I've been doing for years and years. The third part is tech.
Tools and tech. Yeah, me too. Yeah.
And I always separate that out because I think we've talked in other shows about, the new shiny thing. But we are in a really, really brilliantly evolution
Yeah.
world, innovation and all of the tools that we're using are evolving. If not, there's something better.
Yeah.
And that's,
It's just a cost of doing business eventually.
exactly that.
If
It
we
is.
rewind 20 to 25 years ago, before the social channels, before this ability to kind of, you know, media, be your own media production
Uh-huh.
of
Mm.
sorts, your marketing was an advertising line or a
Yep.
sponsorship
Yeah.
line or something. And yet we've had the ability to in many cases, take those lines out, whether
Yep.
rightfully or wrongfully, but they have been ones to go. It doesn't suddenly mean that it's free.
No.
No.
And you know what? That tech tool that might be costing £500 a month, and I'm not trying to be all high and mighty and tell maybe that is out of budget for some companies. And
Yeah,
for a lot of
sure.
companies, it probably is out of budget. But you have to recognize that just because you hire a marketer in-house and then say, well, that's our marketing budget. Okay, I've hired this marketer, I'm paying them 30 grand a year. That is our marketing budget sorted.
Yeah.
You won't, it just won't
You're not given
happen. The
them.
tools and largely technology is what enables any of
Yeah.
this to happen.
Yeah. And I'd also as well, so within the events side of things like content drops would also be kind of counted in my events.
So I split those bits a bit further down. I'm probably a little bit more granular in that middle
Yeah.
section, but I definitely have a people and resources and a tech and tools. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think that band in the middle, the operations piece, for me, it kind of is events from a campaign
Yeah.
mindset perspective. So there is always an aspect of there is an event, whether it's an online webinar or it's a meetup, or there is a customer or partner event that we're part of.
Okay.
And then you kind of have the content around it. You have a different line for
Yeah.
content production, design, wrappers, all of that sort of stuff.
Yeah. And this is going to link to your point earlier about you understand 20% is going to be chopped off. But I've also always worked, and we have talked in other episodes about an 80-20 split of time. But I also worked to that with budget.
Mm.
So what's my percentage? What am I putting in there for test and trial?
Contingency.
Yeah.
almost,
Test
kind of.
and the experimentation bit, the learning bit, that piece. I always put that in. I understand that there are times
No,
when
you
that
would. Yeah.
And there's also, not to get ahead of ourselves, but it's also the recognize that if you're tracking your budget month by month, it is very possible that come October, at the end of it,
Oh wow.
that
Yeah.
you're going to be told to get rid of, well, there's a few scenarios. Well, it's frozen.
Yeah.
It's frozen. What can you get rid of right now? What contracts can you get
100%.
out of? What can
Yeah.
you get out of? Or
Been there too many times.
or prepaying. You see that a lot. Like,
Yeah.
can I prepay stuff because I need to use it or lose it, my
Yeah.
budget?
Yeah.
And that's probably a more mature, probably a lot of the listeners who are listening in right now, that's a much more mature, established way of running a
Business.
budget, running a business, and running you're running a business budget over, and finances really over the year. But I really like to hope that a lot of businesses can get to that,
Yeah.
even, and it's, let me fly the flag for a marketer right now. We say we want the marketers to be more strategic. We want the marketers to be delivering strategic and, or let's say tangible. Like, we want the marketer to
Mm.
deliver tangibles. How can a marketer deliver tangibles when they start January, they don't even have a budget? So they're just kind of doing stuff because they need a plan. And I hope they'd have
Shouting
one
on
even
social
without
media.
much of a budget.
Yeah.
But they start doing stuff. And then, they have to go cap in hand to say, oh, I really need a little budget for this thing. And
Yeah.
that's their life.
Yeah,
And
it's
that
not a
start,
partnership,
stop,
is
start,
it?
stop.
Yeah.
So one of my kind of secret sources, which I'm now obviously going to expose and share with
Oh.
everybody, is
You
that
heard
I
it
always,
here first, folks. You
yeah, I
heard it
always
here
have
first.
my 3 marketing drivers, which are exactly aligned to the business strategy. Bring in new clients, retain existing clients, increase our brand awareness.
Okay.
And I would always have that, but I would always kind of have those as my sort of 3 headers where my budget would be allocated to.
Yep.
And the brand awareness piece is that pot can squeeze. That's absolutely fine, but you cannot take me away from bringing in new clients, and you can't take me away from retaining our existing.
And that for me is when we talk about building a business case in the, in the loosest terms around building a budget, talking business outcomes
Yeah.
in those two pillars. And probably within a recruitment agency world, I'd have a fourth, which is candidate acquisition and retention.
Well, that new business piece, I suppose you could kind
You
of wrap
could you
into.
could split it
Split
out,
it
but
out, yeah.
I do have it separated
And it
because the
should
budgets are
definitely be,
different.
yeah, it should definitely be a line for sure for agencies.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the job of a marketeer in an agency environment is so much tougher because,
You
like,
have 2
what's that return?
customers,
Yeah.
B2B and B2C. For me, it's understanding if you have, 100% of your time, your resource, your budget, but also your bit what's gonna grow your business. And I just say split it up. Split it up candidate, client, and consultant, AKA internal recruitment.
Yeah,
So it
your
can't
employee
be
brand.
thirds.
Yeah.
If you
No.
give me
No.
thirds, there's nothing I can do because we'll always be spinning our wheels. And it's not to say it can't change. Maybe not month to month. That might be a little bit too knee jerk,
Quarter
but
to
Follow the
quarter.
market.
quarter to quarter, correct?
Follow the
100%.
market, because if
Follow
it's a
the
bear market,
market.
if it's bare in
Correct.
terms of talent shortage, then go after candidates
Yeah.
and leverage that more.
And-
If it's the other
Yeah,
way
And
around,
guess what most
Yeah.
are saying right now?
Yeah, clients.
There's a few exceptions, and the exceptions are maybe in nursing or teaching or some of those very candidate driven industries, but it's differs a little bit. But most of them will say 70% client right now, 20% candidate, and 10% internal recruitment. That
Yeah.
is some variations, but that is almost
Yeah.
verbatim what most people.
And I think those that are not there are trying to get there as well. I think that it's a
Mhm.
recognition that they perhaps need to do at the moment.
But then it's also recognizing the different objectives in the business. So, one of the things that we hear a lot right now is about reducing job board costs, reducing LinkedIn licenses, those costs are just growing
Oh
exponentially.
my, wow.
So if you talk to a CFO, that is their number one goal is how do I get those line items under control?
it's
Yeah.
productivity, performance, and
And how do we-
profitability
yeah.
across the businesses that I'm talking to. So similar sort of things. How can we do more with less? How can we make what we're doing more sustainable for the business? And then, even if you're thinking about the way in which business peaks and troughs, that other element that we are somewhat responsible for in terms of driving that business development, driving lead flow, driving conversations, trying to smooth that out as much as possible so that you don't get seasonality, so that you don't get the sort of ebbs and flows of interest. Like, how can you do all of that with your marketing spend? And also, again, because what we're looking at is it could be a subscription. We just amortize it over each month, split it out equally. And actually, the activity is stacked usually at the first month of the
Yeah.
quarter.
And for me, that comes back to the relationship with finance. Understand, can you flatten it? Does it matter where I do that, where I
Yeah.
spend it? Can we flatten it out?
Yeah.
And that's all part of that budgeting process, if you like. Like, where do we need to, businesses don't want to see a ton of cost in December. So how do you work around that? And I think it's about that relationship with finance so that as a marketer, at whatever level, you can understand that. You can see why.
I think there's also that capability of being able to report on and have that, it's not just once a year conversation with your CFO. Cake, cake if you need to, you just do it once a year.
Biscuits. I used to always say biscuits.
Biscuits and cake. But then, you need to be having that ongoing conversation of like, so what's best in terms of the way that I report my budget and spend? Do I report this to the CEO? Do I give it to my line director? Do I give it to, as a director, do I bring it to the CFO every week, every month? How do we track that?
Yeah.
And also as well, it's like really difficult to kind of go, oh, I've got this invoice in, or worse still, finance turning up to your desk and plonking an invoice in going, you didn't have this in the budget. Like how are you really aligning what you're spending with the reality of what you budgeted? How are you reporting on that? And also, what are the metrics that you're measuring that success by? Because what you want to be doing is that every single week, month, reconciling what you've spent versus what you've achieved versus the story that you told right at the beginning.
Yeah.
Because a year is a long bloody
But
time.
also, it's not all the marketers' job either. Like that.
No,
That's
it's
also
not.
like they will come with. You should start to be seeing the P&Ls. You should be looking through the accounts. You should be you know not just having to be tracking on your
Ed.
Excel
Yeah.
spreadsheet. You need to be if you're part of that. If you're part of that table and that discussion. And hopefully they have trust in you as well. You
Mm.
will be seeing the buckets of expenditure, and you should know what's in all of them. But that's what management reporting is for.
Well,
That's what
that's it.
management
And the
accounts are
management,
Because
for.
not
but
everyone's
also
got a marketer either. So
no,
Yeah.
you're talking to the business leaders listening, they will have a marketer to talk to about
yeah,
budget, right? But that
yeah,
doesn't mean they don't need a marketing budget.
yeah.
Right.
And it's also as well like defining, well, can you offset the budget to expenses, to activity that drives your business or client retention? Can you do that too?
Yeah.
I think when we talk also recruitment specifically, and it is probably this in most industries, it's because it is still very salesperson led,
Mm,
consultant led.
Yeah.
There's still a person that comes between us and a sale. Is actually really, really understanding the seasonality for it. So for me, it's having absolutely at least one lead gen program in the spring, one lead gen program in the autumn. And that's what helps drive their activity in those
Yeah.
periods. Um, you know what? We had a campaign for a client that went live in July, which nobody really wanted that. Like it wasn't the goal, and there was a reason why it happened. It actually performed great.
Yeah. Not
And so it
everybody's on holiday, are they?
yeah,
Not
it actually
everyone.
performed great,
yeah.
and actually it set them up for a really good September. Just because when you think of the timelines of some of what a placement sometimes would make,
Mm.
but yeah, it's really, and then I think that's where you also find yourself when you can show the tangibles to your stakeholders, which consultant or sales leader, whomever
Indeed.
that is, but that's where they also really love because they actually can feel it and they say,
Absolutely.
wow, they've actually driven business to me.
I think that also then plays into that ad hoc opportunity as
Yeah.
well. Because again, you're right. We can't possibly see 12 months in advance and know and understand everything that's coming at us in that year. How can you possibly
Yeah.
plan for, oh, actually, you know what? I really do think that idea is going to cost us 20 grand, but I do think it's going to be amazing. You can't just walk
But
into your
also,
CEO
you
and
know
say,
what? But
I
also,
think it's going
even
to be
when you're
amazing.
setting
It's
a plan in October for the year ahead, whatever it might be, it does. You have earmarked budget for something in May, June, but maybe again, this comes back to that
The definition of
prioritization.
what?
And
Yeah.
And so then,
allocation.
maybe you're not going to be paying for it until, or make a decision on it till
Yeah.
say March. Maybe you actually realize that come March, you know what, that wasn't the best idea. I will take that budget and I'll shift it over here. So
Mm,
it's recognizing because I think a lot of people whether it's a budget or a marketing plan, they're like, well, I'm not going to be making a marketing plan because it just goes in a drawer and never to be seen again after January.
yeah, make
And
it
that's
work
where
for
the
you.
problem is.
Yeah.
It really should be a living, breathing document
Yeah.
that you're constantly revisiting. And yes, it's the budget comes along with you while you're doing that.
And also as well, it's dialing it back to the outcome piece. If you can
Yes.
always speak to the outcome, I'm pretty sure all business leaders will stop, listen, and help you to evaluate, is this a good time, money, resources? Is it going to give us the outcome that we really know that's where we're going? So I kind of almost as well, like we spin 30-day plans. We look at the month in advance, and it is about being really agile, and you can only do that if you've got some really good internal structure for comms content, and and
Yeah.
understand where product is versus customer success is, where sales are. You can only do that if you're all really in step with each other.
Mm. And I
But to
think,
have a quarterly view, that's not difficult. You should know what's happening in each quarter, because if your quarters match your market,
Well, not to
then
mention
it's
the
the same.
classic is September rolls around and the
Everybody wants to
marketer's
do a
been
lot.
begging, please let's have our
Yeah.
plan for the end of the year push.
yeah,
And no matter what, it'll come to you on the 2nd of September.
Yeah.
And it's like you do realize you don't just turn it on. It does take some time to plan. So
Yeah.
so yes,
yeah,
your point on quarterly,
Yeah.
you're doing your end of year Q4 plans. June,
Yeah,
Yeah.
no,
July.
I would
It
always
takes a bit
work
of
6
time.
months
Get
in
ahead.
advance.
Get ahead.
Get ahead.
Always be
Absolutely.
6 months in advance for myself, and I think that for when I was in-house was kind of almost how I lived my year, so everybody was celebrating summer, I'm thinking about Christmas.
Christmas.
And at home, that became a little bit of an issue. But knowing and understanding where we were
Yeah.
gonna be enabled us to kind of foresee, well, what's coming that we can take opportunity.
Yeah. And I think that opportunity and outcome is the point, isn't it? That we've sort of come to today. When, as a marketer, you can speak the language of commercial outcomes, I think that link between what we do and the spend becomes more about a growth driver than it does just about cost. Um, and you need to build your case with data. You need to tell your story with confidence, and you need to talk about impact and business outcomes to really build a case for marketed spend.